again, and welcome into another edition of Last Call. Some different faces this week. Not Jake Kiefer, not Nathaniel Finch. They'll take the week off here, and we'll still get you the same sports lines. Graham Shear alongside Sam Gailey for today's edition. A little bit later, we'll have Landon Coons, Giselle Valentine, and Liam Blaze joining us here on Last Call. But for now, we're still going to start with UINDY Sports, and the football team, Sam, got off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, they did. They traveled to Pittsburgh State for the first NCAA tournament appearance this year. Their quarterback, though, struggling just a little bit. Christian Conkling, usually a reliable quarterback, only going for 15 for 35 in this game. But that's not the stat line we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about those 5 key interceptions. Definitely that impacted this game, which they unfortunately lost 35-0. Graham, but there were some positives there definitely about their rushing defense.
Yeah, definitely some positives. Obviously, UIndy's run defense is the best in the nation coming into this Saturday's performance against Pittsburgh State, and they just really weren't able to get off to a hot start. Testimony to that to the Gorillas offense, a 98-yard kick return to start off the game, and the Greyhounds were just immediately falling behind.
Definitely, that's not how you want to start off a game. With a 98-yard touchdown return, that's pretty insane. But let's talk about the Pittsburgh State quarterback, Chad Dotson Jr., actually dotting up the Indianapolis Greyhounds, going 18 for 26 for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns with an interception himself. But definitely exposing that zone and man defense throughout the game.
And with UIndy having the best run defense, they only gave up 36 yards on the ground on Saturday. One of their best running backs, Caleb Lewis, he only had 15 yards on the game. So that run defense was really working on Saturday. But again, the storyline you just mentioned, Chad Dotson Jr., he comes in, he's having a great season, and he does so again on Saturday, a great game. He was 18 of 26 on the day, 255 yards through the air. He was looking around the field. He was absolutely shredding apart this UIndy defense. And the secondary for UIndy is kind of something I want to focus on now, because they were just giving up a lot of what they've given up throughout the season. They've given up a lot of deep plays, and they kind of played that bend, don't break defense where they give up the big plays, but essentially they keep the guys in front of them. On Saturday, they just didn't do that against the Gorillas.
I think definitely when we're talking about a defense, it has to be complementary football. Right? You have to have a good defense accompanied by a good offense. Unfortunately for the UIndy Greyhounds, that offense just didn't come in the ways that you want it to. Over the season, each game, the Indianapolis Greyhounds averaged about 112 yards, give or take, per game. That's our average on the ground. On Saturday against Pittsburgh State, 91 yards in total. Their star running back, Toriano Clinton, 16 attempts for 56 yards. That's just not good enough to be able to have that ground and pound offense that we like to see.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Toriano Clinton, because he didn't have a great game this past Saturday against Truman State either. 2 Saturdays ago in what was the GLVC title game, essentially, where the Greyhounds ended up beating the Bulldogs. They beat Truman State, and they come away with their 8th GLVC title. But Tori kind of had a slow start in that game as well. Finished with under 30 yards rushing in that game, but over the course of the season had well over 1,000 yards rushing and just had a great day. One thing UIndy did well, though, against Truman State was they were able to pass the ball. Christian Conkling had a great day, and as you alluded to, those 6 turnovers, 5 picks, and a fumble just isn't good enough from a quarterback standpoint when you're trying to come away with a Division II victory, especially in the playoffs. The 6 turnovers just doesn't cut it.
So, speaking of better news, both basketball teams, both women's and men's basketball, actually were away this weekend. Let's start with the women's game. They traveled to Northwood. They actually won a really tough game, nitty-gritty game, 74-71. Do you have any key players or key stat lines for us today?
Oh, definitely. Probably my biggest key player from really the last couple of games, last handful, Sadie Hill. She got off to a slow start on the year, wasn't playing that well, wasn't finishing on the inside in the paint. Just an awful shooting percentage for the first 2 games. Now, the last 2 games, it's just been a different story. She had over 15 points against Hillsdale and now 17 points, leading scorer against Northwood this past Saturday. Played an outstanding game, also had 6 rebounds. Sadie Hill, a senior, is just one of the biggest leaders on Mark Mitchell's side of things. When you look at the bench, though, that's where a couple of the biggest storylines came from, because Lauren With came off the bench, had 15 points, knocks down 2 of 3 from behind the arc, 6 of 10 from the field overall, and also 4 rebounds for With, 11 points off the bench for Elena Wells. Mark Mitchell decides to bring her off the bench on Saturday's game, and she gives him 11 points, 6 assists, 3 for 4 from behind the arc. Just a great day for the Greyhounds overall, and as you mentioned, a nitty-gritty win. They were able to tough it out, and they were able to play a full 40 minutes of basketball, one thing Mark Mitchell has been looking for all season long from his players.
All right, that's a great win from the UINDY women's basketball team. Let's move on to the men's. Another win as they traveled to Grand Valley State. Graham, you were there as well. Very busy weekend for you travel-wise, I bet. But they get the wins, 72-66. Is that a convincing win for you?
Oh, absolutely. An extremely convincing win for the Greyhounds. They played Grand Valley State, who came in 2-1. They had lost earlier this season to Southwest Baptist, another opponent that the Greyhounds will have to face later this year. Now, later in the season, when they get into the GLVC play, they're going to have to play Southwest Baptist, a great team. But Grand Valley State is another one of those great teams. They're in the GLIAC Conference, and they come in 2-1 on the season thus far in Cornell Mann's first year with the Lakers, and UINDY was really able to take advantage of the defense, especially in the first half. In the first half, they go on a couple runs, they go off to a big lead, and coming into halftime, they were up by 7 points. Big testimony to that, too, off the bench, 42 bench points on Sunday from UINDY. Those 42 bench points, that's 42 of their 72 overall on Sunday's matchup. 11 from Bruno Williams, coming over from Lewis, all GLVC second team last year. 11 points from David Eja off the bench. 9 from Jarvis Walker. You just look down the list of these UINDY Greyhounds, and it's just a huge testimony to what Paul Corsaro's been able to build with the Greyhounds, especially going down the bench. The 5 starters, all returning players, but the next 5 off the bench is really where the Greyhounds have taken a big step forward and coming in on the year #1 in the GLVC coaches poll.
Definitely. I mean, in basketball, I believe that if you have a deep bench and a bench that can contribute to the game like UINDY's, we're going to go far.
And with the Greyhounds in the starting lineup, though, had a chance to sit down and talk with Jesse Bingham post-game yesterday after that big win over Grand Valley State. Finishes with 11 points, the redshirt sophomore. But big thing we talked about was his leadership role. It's a new leadership role. Corey Miller Jr. graduating last year. He's gone, and that's one thing that he did a lot with last year with the Greyhounds. One thing that Corey Miller did was give the Greyhounds a bucket when they really needed it. Now he's gone. Who was going to fill that role? Jesse Bingham filled that role on Sunday and led the Greyhounds to a 6-point come-from-behind big win down the stretch.
That's awesome. So we're going to move on to Division I sports, especially college football. I'm a college football fan. I know you're paying attention to some games this weekend, so we're definitely going to cover the IU Hoosiers.
And IU, they had a great game on Sunday against Michigan State. Michigan State comes in 5-5 on the year, and IU had an absolutely awesome game. They're up in East Lansing, and Dexter Williams, big story from this one. He was able to have a pretty good day, especially on the ground for the Hoosiers. 16 carries for 86 yards and a touchdown for Williams III.
The run game, we'll continue on that aspect of the game. I think for every college team that I've looked at so far has a good run game. Let's talk about Sean Shivers here. 13 carries, 115 yards, and 2 touchdowns. With the backup, Josh Henderson with 11 carries, 36 yards, and a touchdown. Dominant run game from the IU Hoosiers.
With the Michigan State side of things, obviously come in 5-5. You have a home game against the Hoosiers, and you're up 31-14, about midway, almost more than midway through the third quarter. You squander away that lead, and by the time the beginning of the fourth quarter rolls around, I mean, here come the Hoosiers. Now it's a tie ball game. And Michigan State, you see it there. A missed field goal right at the end of the game. They were going to come away with a win. It's a short field goal, and they weren't able to capitalize on it.
Speaking of which, their rival school, actually, Purdue, played as well this weekend. Let's take a look at those highlights.
Yeah, so Purdue, they come in also an astounding 6-4 so far on the season. Aiden O'Connell, 159 yards on Saturday, also throws a couple touchdowns for the Boilermakers, and they have not exactly a convincing win against Northwestern. The Wildcats come in 1-9 on the season, and they actually put up quite a bit of a fight against the Boilermakers. They got off to a hot start. They scored the first touchdown, and then the Boilermakers then were trying to answer most of the way.
Dylan Downing, 17 carries, 49 yards for the Purdue Boilermakers. Two good receivers here for Purdue. Charlie Jones, 6 receptions, 46 yards, 1 touchdown. Modest day for him. He usually puts up a little bit better numbers, but especially against Northwestern. Like you said, they did put up a bit of a fight in the beginning. Then Purdue sort of took over with these screen plays and these tosses out of the backfield. Definitely a dominant day for Purdue.
As Purdue moves on their season, rivalry week is next week. They will visit the IU Hoosiers in the Old Bull, the IU and Purdue game. So it's gonna be really fun to watch. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Definitely, it's gonna be a good place to go and sit down, especially with your friends, and take a look. I mean, definitely I got 2 friends. One's an IU fan, one's a Purdue fan. Definitely going to watch with both of them, see who celebrates, see who cries. We're going to move on to Notre Dame as our final game that we're going to look at in the college area this week.
Yeah, Drew Pine, quarterback for IU, steps in and has a big day for the Irish on Saturday. He was 13-25, 156 yards through the air and a touchdown. But Logan Doggs, I mean, just look at him, 15 carries for 122 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Audric Estime through the air, 11 catches for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns. They were the Fighting Irish were just a domination against Boston College. Obviously, Boston College comes in 3-7 on the season. Notre Dame 7-3, but the snow, a big story of this one.
Definitely. It's definitely cold here in Indiana these times of the season. A little bit earlier than I want the snow to come, but definitely you can see here, literally 2-3 minutes before this, it looked like this.
Exactly. Just immediately, about a couple minutes into the third quarter, there was no snow on the ground, as you see it here, but then about midway through the third quarter, just 5 or 6 minutes had run off the clock, and immediately inches of snow had fallen. The entire field covered up there in South Bend. But Notre Dame never really looked back. They come away with a 44-0 win over Boston College.
NFL, we're going to go to the professional game for you guys. Definitely the Colts had their work cut out for them in this week's matchup against the dominant Eagles, who were coming off a difficult loss to the Washington Commanders last week.
It was really just a tough loss for Indianapolis. I mean, the Eagles come in, they were 8-1, and they had just lost to the Commanders, which looked like it might have been a great game for the Eagles to, well, actually a couple good weeks. They play the Commanders, one of the worst teams in football, and then the Colts, could have arguably even worse than the Commanders, and you're playing, and you kind of just play down to your opponent due to the Eagles. They weren't really able to run away as we got accustomed to seeing early in the season. Jalen Hurts was just an MVP candidate 8 weeks through.
Definitely, Eagles definitely saved the best for last. This is a testament to the Colts defense. There's a lot of questions coming into this game is the Colts going to stop them? Are they going to have an opportunity to take the ball away? We saw some instances here as the Colts unfortunately fall to 4-6-1.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts runs the ball in there, just over a minute left in the ball game. It was a great finish to the ball game, and obviously that extra point gives them that 1 point penny margin over the Colts, and the Colts fall to 4-6-1. Not much more you can do. They have Pittsburgh next week, but the Colts are kind of reeling at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, one of the standout performances, Jonathan Taylor's really turned it on these past weeks. He went 22 carries, for 84 yards and a touchdown. Definitely, me as a fantasy owner, love to see those numbers put
Absolutely.
out. Finally, after all these weeks. So if you're a Colts fan, it's hopeful. With Jeff Saturday at the helm, maybe they can concoct something. But we have more games for you guys as we move on to the Vikings and the Cowboys. Kind of a blowout, but...
Kind of. It's definitely a blowout. But one thing is, I mean, people were expecting this to be one of those nail-biting games. Just like last week, the Vikings go up to Buffalo, and that was a very, very close game, an overtime victory for Minnesota. It was a 6.5-point money line for the Cowboys, and, I mean, that just, come on.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about the key players for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk about the defense a little later. Davi, definitely a dominant performance by that Cowboys defense. I think throwing up about 17 fantasy points via ESPN. But let's talk about the main people on offense. Dak Prescott going 22 for 25. That's deadly accurate.
Nearly a perfect day for Prescott through the air. A 93.3 quarterback rating.
Definitely. And then obviously you
Impressive
have
day.
Tony Pollard and Zeke combining 30 carries for about 122 yards and 4 touchdowns between them. That's insane.
Yeah, this Viking defense really could not stop them at all. Let's switch gears and move to Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs and the Chargers. Another great matchup. Patrick Mahomes trying to beat the Chargers for the second time this year. It was really an awesome game. And Travis Kelce, the big storyline from this one. You see him here walking into the end zone.
Definitely, Pat Mahomes went 20 for 34 with 329 yards and 3 touchdowns. The big name, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, left the game with an injury. Who is going to fill in for them? Isaiah Pacheco steps up, 15 carries, 107 yards. When you think of the Kansas City Chiefs, you think of the passing game, you think of Mahomes through the air.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see Kelce going in for a second touchdown there. He had 6 receptions on Sunday Night Football, 115 yards. You'll see his third touchdown here in just a moment. Here it is. Running their 17-yard touchdown play, and that would give the Chiefs their first lead of the day. They go up 30-27, and that would end up being the game there. You see the interception, and the Chiefs move to 8-2 on the year, and Patrick Mahomes just keeps on keeping on.
Yep, so other stat lines. Let's go to the Chargers side just for a quick second.
Yep.
Justin Herbert, 23 of 30 for 280, really good day. 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, that INT at the end to end the game. Let's go into our top 10 plays coming at you live from the University of Indianapolis studio. Let's take a look. The first one here, Derek Carr drops back in the pocket. He's going to loft it over the middle to a wide open Davante Adams, and he walks in the end zone. He waves bye to the Broncos in overtime.
Walk-off touchdown. Davante Adams leads the NFL in touchdowns scored. That one, a walk-off, and the Raiders defeat the Broncos in conference matchup.
Moving on to number 9 here. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Very nitty-gritty game here. Pittsburgh going to be able to haul it in here. A fantastic catch by George Pickens.
George Pickens, unreal. What a catch.
Fantastic catch here on that sideline.
Steelers fall to the Bengals, but again, Bengals with a great win.
Speaking of which here, Najee Harris turns the corner with a hurdle. Jumps right into the touchdown. Look at that vertical, Graham. Oh, my gosh.
Najee Harris has had a slow start to this year. We're through 11 weeks, and he still has been a little bit underwhelming, but a great play there.
Chargers, Chiefs. Herbert drops back in the pocket. This is one of my favorite plays. As you see, calm and composed, unleashes a throw. Unfortunately, picked off. As you can see, he scrambled all night versus that Chiefs defense, who was blitzing him quite often.
Keenan Allen comes back, his first game back from the injury, game time decision. Had a great game, but couldn't reel it in that time. Chiefs come away with the win.
Davis Mills here. He's going to loft one up. Unfortunately, picked off by Washington Commanders, who takes it in for a pick 6. That's a great read on that corner route.
Yep. Yeah, Fuller comes away with the pick there. The Texans don't usually make it on top 10 plays. This one, another bad play from Houston.
Joe Burrow drops back in the pocket here. And he's going to get picked off right at the line. Big man.
See,
Watt going up to grab that one.
3 top 10 plays from Pittsburgh, and they still lost? Come on. Cincinnati, another great win. Joe Burrow, big testimony for that.
He threw it right into his palms there as he goes down. That's amazing how he could catch that with that velocity coming out of Joe Burrow. Talking about Cordell Patterson.
Record breaker here.
Kickoff return. Graham, what do we got?
Cordell Patterson. I mean, talk about the speed with this guy. Look at him. I mean, come on.
He just split the
High
he split
stepping
the
into the
kicker.
end
Oh
zone
my
for pay
gosh,
dirt.
the
Wow.
speed.
Yep.
9 touchdown returns, career touchdown return, new record.
Yep.
Fantastic play from him. Coming off injury, actually, I believe this is the second week back.
Yep.
Sort of easing himself in to the lineup again, but he doesn't really do a lot of easing there.
Expect him to add on to that record-breaking number. He's still got some time left.
Talking about my Patriots, I'm very excited about this one. I was actually jumping up and down, sitting on my couch.
Were you?
3-3, fourth, 20 seconds left. Jones returns it from the 15. He's going to cut, and he's going to cut again. He's pointing out people to block, punter to beat, kicker to beat. He's off.
By the way,
And that's
I
it.
had the Patriots defense playing on fantasy,
Beautiful.
and this one might have just given me the win this week. But again, 2 walk-off touchdowns, this one by the Patriots, another electrifying play to close out the day.
Let's move over to the Chicago, Atlanta again. Fields, laser, Komet, one hand.
Yeah,
Down.
awesome
Look
catch.
at that. That's ridiculous.
Cole Kmet, are you kidding me?
That is
In his second year,
ridiculous.
look at that reach.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
One
right.
of the- one
Point
of
on
the
down
best
the
tight ends in
field.
the league. Let's go down to number 1 here. Best play.
Your best play from Sunday.
Herbert drops back.
Keenan Allen in his first game back from injury. Look at him here. Wow.
What a catch.
In this late in the game, I mean, that would lead to the Chargers taking the lead, but the Chiefs were able to come
Yeah.
back in the final couple minutes there and come away with the win.
Speaking of interesting plays, let's move on to our bloopers here. We actually have some funny plays that happened this weekend.
Number 3 on the list. I mean, come on, look at Dak Prescott. What is he doing?
I actually saw a guy dressed up for Halloween as Dak Prescott, and that's the way he was walking down the street as he was doing his work.
I mean, if it works for him, they won 40-3. I mean, if it works for him, I need to start doing that.
Pat Mahomes here to Kelsey. Kelsey's going to bounce around a little bit. And look at the I've never seen Kelsey dance. I'm always thinking about Gronk, but
Yeah, Travis Kelce.
it's, like you just see that there.
He was feeling himself last night.
Definitely 2 touchdowns.
3
I would
touchdowns.
3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I would be feeling myself.
awesome
too.
game.
Here's Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, this one kind of stings a bit.
Wow.
Especially
Jalen
this
Hurts.
late in
Right
the game.
in front of Blue.
Yeah,
the mascot. That's kind of disrespectful, but obviously.
I mean,
the
that's exactly
Eagles,
what
really.
happened, though. He did troll him. I mean, look at him. He did troll him.
Well, guys, hey, we have more sports for you, including NBA when we get back and a World Cup preview. Stay with us here on UINDY TV.
Award-winning news coverage. Brought to you by ethical journalists that care about you. We have you covered on crime, latest on sports, and the best in entertainment. This is UINDY TV News. Award-winning news coverage. Brought to you by ethical journalists that care about you. We have you covered on crime, latest on sports, and the best in entertainment. This is UINDY TV News.
Welcome back to The Last Call. We got 2 more faces. I'm Liam Blaze.
And I'm Giselle Valentine.
We're going to shift gears from football and we're going to go right into the NBA. Your Indianapolis Pacers defeated the Magic 114-113 on Sunday.
Yes, Liam, this is the Pacers' 4th win in a row as they proved to the season 9-6, and now Magic fall to 5-12.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Pacers being 9-6, I don't think you'd ever see the day. I mean, better than the Bulls, better than the Wizards, better than all of them. But thanks to Halliburton, had 22 points and 14 assists.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the Pacers have been pretty much the surprising team so far. I mean, they got all these young players who's been contributing on a consistent basis. They have been 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they shot from 45% on the field in this victory.
All right, and Benedict Mathurin making his case for Rookie of the Year. He's been going pretty well this year. But now we're going to go from the Pacers to the Grizzlies and the Nets game. The big story today is Kyrie Irving's return from suspension after he posted a link to a documentary with anti-Semitic material in it.
And Ben Simmons kind of gradually coming back to himself. He's displayed 22 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, only shooting from 11 from 13 from behind the field and kind of getting back into the groove of things. I know he's been kind of iffy these past couple of seasons, but now he's kind of proven the haters wrong, Liam.
That's right. The Nets are now 8-9. I mean, they got to thank the fact that, unfortunately, John Moran is out with an ankle sprain, so you're lucky he was out so they could get that win. The next game, we're going to go to the Nuggets and the Mavericks game. That was another close one down at Denver. The Mavericks won by 1, actually.
That was such a good game. And the Nuggets had 3 players out, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon. So it was pretty nice to see them get this win without kind of 3 of their main starters.
That's right. And Luka Doncic finished with 22 points, 7 of 16 shooting, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. And that's kind of crazy to say that that's his off game.
Yes, and we got to mention the key player for me during that game was Bones Highland of Denver. He just had such a great night and just proved how solid he can be as a player.
All right, now we're going to go into our way too early MVP rankings. It's going to show up behind us in a second here. You want to start with yours?
I mean, by looking at ours, it's pretty much the same. Only one player really just different. You chose Giannis. I chose Joel. Why did you choose Giannis?
I chose Giannis because he's carrying the Bucks right now. 11-4 without Chris Middleton, without Pat Connaughton, without Joe Ingles. He's just carrying them on his shoulders. 30 points, more than 11 rebounds. Why do you choose Joel?
I chose Joel because, yeah, he had pretty much a slow start recently, but he has come back. He's been battling with some injuries because of his right knee, but he came back. He actually just recently made NBA history as when he scored 59 points and just shooting and becoming the first player in 50 years to finish with 50 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 blocks in a single game.
Yeah, and I think people are overlooking that, and that's a crazy stat line. We're going to preview the Bulls and Celtics here. Bulls, I don't know what else to say.
I know, as us, being region rats, this one kind of hurts a bit. I mean, the Bulls, they're coming off a loss against the Magic.
I hate to see
Out
it.
of all teams, the
Magic.
Magic, making it 4 losses in a row. Meanwhile, the Celtics are on a 9-game winning streak. So what do you think the Bulls have to do tonight in order to break
honestly,
that winning streak?
It sounds easy, but win. I mean, they're on a 4-game losing streak, as you said earlier. There's only 3 teams worse than them right now: the Magic, Hornets, and the Pistons, and you don't want to be in the same argument as them. The Bulls still notable without Lonzo Ball. That's your number 1 point guard. Io's putting in a good shift, but you want Lonzo Ball there.
All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit, talk about some teams that are actually winning. We are now joined by our very own Sam Gailey as we have our World Cup predictions. So, Sam, what do you have for us?
Definitely the World Cup started off with Qatar playing Ecuador. Qatar losing 2-0, Valencia with a brace. First host nation to actually lose their first game in 92 years. Fun fact for you guys. But my pick for the World Cup is Brazil. Brazil great offense, great defense, and FanDuel has them plus 430 to win the World Cup.
You got Brazil. I have Argentina out of all teams. I really think, Leon Messi, his possible last World Cup, I think he's going to pull it in for a big potential push.
That's right. And I'm gonna go high. I'm gonna go the plus 15,000 on the betting. I'm gonna go USA. We're gonna go with our boys. I'm gonna go with our boys, USA all the way.
Well, we can only wish.
Yeah, they started off. Can't really say strong, but they tied their first game against the Wales. But thank you for joining us. This was the last call here on UINDY TV. This was Liam Blaze.
Sam Gailey.
Giselle Valentin.
Thank you.